everyone, and welcome to this LinkedIn Live session where we're going to be introducing you to some of the team at Valize and explore our new learning guides, which are launching this week. Super exciting. We've been working on it all summer long. And the learning guides are intended to be short, easy to access, very much in the flow of work, opportunities to learn about customers, to learn about innovation, to learn the techniques of discovery-driven planning. And we hope that they're a nice blend of online and in person. We're also going to be creating a community around them. And I'll probably be having professor office hours, which are also going to be live. So we'll sort of drop in on those. But to explain the guides, I'd like to introduce to you Flaminia Trentino, who is our digital chief strategist here at Valize. And she's going to show you a little bit of what we've been building.
Hi, thank you very much, Rita, for introduction, and thank you for having me. Yes, today we're gonna talk about the new and improved Learning Hub area, and this is what I'd like to show you. You'll find everything in our valize.com/hub page. Over here, you'll find the new learning solutions, in particular, our new impact guides that are specifically designed, as Rita mentioned, to offer you the tools to learn in a smart and easy format. Each guide includes an explainer video, an application, an assessment, and access to both our Learning Hub and Talk Hub community. We will be releasing guides each week. So every Tuesday, you'll find a new guide. And we actually have a lot of guides coming up, a lot of collections. You can check the full catalog in the catalog page. You'll see what is coming up. You'll see the dates of the release. And you can also learn more about the collections that we're focusing in and what the guides are about. So you can check this page to know what guides will be released. If you'd like to, you can also access our demo guide to experience a taste of what we're talking about. And this is what you will have access to if you buy either the demo guide or the full guides or collections. This is our own Valize Learning Hub. Over here, you'll have the full syllabus of the guide or collection that you bought. You will have access to an explainer video where our own founder, Rita, is gonna talk about the lesson and the guide that you have bought. If you scroll down, you also have the PDF guide that you can either look through it in our Learning Hub, you can download, or you can also print it if you want to just like have it hands-on. You can just go over here through all the videos. We have a application, so there is also a case study for each individual guide. We have an assessment area where you can test your knowledge, and also we have a community area if you buy the individual guides or the collection. But yeah, this is what you will have access with our new and improved Valize Learning Hub and Impact Guides. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Flaminia. It's so nice to be able to introduce you to our LinkedIn community. What I'd like to do now is introduce Sid Apaya. Sid was kind enough to participate in the original beta test that we did of these materials. Sid is a corporate innovator, has been a senior executive at many leading companies, and is now exploring the world of startups and corporate venturing, working with us together in what we may be creating as an impact program where we'd be creating a community of people that are working on this. But for today, we're going to focus on the learning guide. So Sid, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rita.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And you're just such fun to work with. It's really been fun. So here's like one of the uber mysteries of our time, right? Which is a recent McKinsey study that gets cited a lot, says something like 92% of all senior executives have an existential fear that their business models or their companies or the way that they're doing things today is not fit for purpose for the future. So that's pretty widely understood. And yet 84% of them report being intensely dissatisfied with their innovation programs. And I just would love to get your perspective on why you think that disconnect exists.
So great question. This is kind of near and dear to my heart. I mean, even prior to the McKinsey study, there's been a number of studies by CB Insights and so on about why the failure rate is so high. And you've written about this for years as well. So I started diving into this because when I was in the corporate world, I started seeing, some of the innovations that we were launching really not hitting the numbers, and I started delving into this. When I started mentoring startups, I was part of a venture studio, and also in the corporate venturing program. Uh, a lot of these companies just didn't sort of meet the cut, or products didn't really meet the cut. And so, if you really bucket it down, just from a corporate venturing standpoint, there are five reasons why. One is the lack of an integrated set of processes and tools. And the world is moving really quickly. So, for example, if you take Ron Adner's ecosystem mapping, and the book that you wrote about seeing around corners, right? I've seen chief strategy officers actually struggle to say, why is my multinational competitor made these strategic acquisitions? Because I just can't fathom why they've done that, right? And so when you understand your ecosystem and that that value chain of where you can actually win, that's one example. So we don't have an integrated end-to-end process with a very rapidly changing world. So that's the first element. The second element is mindsets in the corporate world, right? So there's entrepreneurial mindsets, and not every entrepreneur really has that mindset. But in the corporate world, it's more about, let me save my job, let me look good. All these factors hold back against taking risk, right, and uncertainty. So that's the second element. And then your friend Amy Edmondson always talks about culture, right, and the safety factor, right? Just if you want to do risk taking, you got to enable that. I've seen I know a couple of really successful entrepreneurs, and the organizations that have scaled, they do take risks, and they open with that idea of that failure being okay. It's a good thing, but we learn and we move on from it. But not the large multinationals. I think that they're still struggling with that culture aspect. And then there are two other elements. One is, Safi Bakul talks about structure, right? And then the culture of experimentation. So leadership, rather than focusing on opinion, really saying, hey, listen, what experiments? And we see in Amazon doing this really well, Booking.com doing this really well. And even here from China, that's doing a fantastic job. You're writing about this recently, which is the permissionless corporation, but that's one of the elements.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would observe is that people don't understand that there is a rock-ribbed discipline around innovation. It's just really different than what you would do in what Jeffrey Moore calls the performance zone, right? The performance zone is all about, deliver results, meet your numbers, meet your objectives. And the metrics and the measures of success and the measures of progress in the world of the new are really different. So what I often say is, if you think about a competitive life cycle, right, it has a beginning, and that's where innovation and the mergers and acquisitions and the new discoveries get made. Then you have this period of exploitation, and that's where the performance people kind of take over, right? Your operators, your supply chain people, the routine, not that there's anything less worthy about that, right? I want to make that clear. But then in a competitive environment where entry barriers are not able to be sustained, that advantage is going to come under pressure. And so your original advantage is going to go into erosion. And so your BlackBerry or your Nokia flip phone or your plain paper Xerox copier or whatever. And then you need to be able to transform your organization to make it fit for purpose for the next stage. And I think we do a really poor job of training people. And that's actually one of the reasons, one of the inspirations for these learning guides was, wouldn't it be awesome if when you hit a moment where you needed to really make a discovery, or you needed to, figure out what some new thing was that you hadn't had in your corporate background or experience, or didn't know where to, wouldn't it be great if you could go off the shelf and pull something down, have that learning, and then put it right to work, right? So they're meant to be really, really sort of very short. These are not lengthy 40-minute videos. It's meant to be consumed at the pace at which business runs. So how do so you've been through the beta version of this, and as an experienced corporate innovator, you're a pretty sophisticated consumer. What were some of the things that you thought were most useful about the way these things are structured?
So I really loved it because just for the broader audience, I looked at a whole host of different kinds of processes and what works, what doesn't work. So I'm a practitioner to actually see what works. And what I liked is when you're doing corporate and innovation, or even for startups, there are times where you struggle, right? And you need a short module that you can do at your own point of time, and you can learn, right? And this hits the nail on the head as far as that's concerned, because it's short, to the point. I'm struggling with this. I need to understand customer insights. How do I do user research, right? It's an affordable piece. It tells you exactly what you need to do. It is not theory; it's practitioner based, right? And so the examples out there to on how to actually do it and execute it. And the thing is, they are short modules, so you can just go back anytime you want and reference it. The other aspect that I would say is, for groups or teams, it gives you the same language to learn from. Right? So the whole set of teams can say, five of them can work on this, the same module, and say, you know what, I'm doing this user insight and user research in this methodology. Say, let's call it jobs to be done, and follow that through, but everybody is on the same page as well. And so I don't see that in the marketplace. So I think this is really timely. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so delighted. Yeah, I think common language is really important, so, and let's just take jobs to be done as a specific tool. So this concept comes to us from Tony Ulwick and Clayton Christensen, and has become part of the innovation vernacular as a way, but I think it's very misunderstood. So what Clay said years ago was, don't think of customers buying your products and services. Think of them as hiring those things to get jobs that you need to get done in your lives. And sometimes the jobs are really surprising. So for example, one of the cases that I use in the learning guide on behavioral segmentation of customers is the case of my mom. And my mom, at the time that I'm thinking of her, was, a retired person, and she lived with my dad, who was also retired, and they lived frugally. I mean, they weren't poor, but they were careful with their money. And so she was the sort of person who would clip coupons, and she knew the price of everything. She was German too, so she knew what everything cost. And so, that specialty aisle in the grocery store where, the fancy candles and the flowers and all that stuff is, she would just sail right on by that, because in a normal week, that would not be relevant to her. But the occasion I'm thinking of is Thanksgiving is coming, and my brother and I are going, but more importantly, her grandchildren are coming, right? And so, she fills the cart up with stuff she's never even heard of, like Go-Gurts. I mean, what's that? And, Lucky Charms and stuff like that. And then she it happens to find herself in this specialty items aisle, and she sees the perfect candle for the centerpiece of the Thanksgiving table. And it costs $36. Now, normal mom would have looked at that and gone, $36 for a candle a piece.
And no discount on it.
But now, it goes in the cart because she's got $400 worth of other stuff she would never dream of buying to begin with. And I think what you need to understand is the job that's getting done is not buying a candle to illuminate a room. It's buying a candle to make a memory that she hopes will be a lasting one for her grandchildren. And that's the essence of this, right? So learning to see beyond just what the surface functionality or the surface view of something is, so that you get really much more deep into the customer's experience. And that's an example of how to do that.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I mean, I would say, especially in the larger corporates, a lot of companies are blind to the idea of what the job really is. You kind of take cars are a great example, right? I will look at what Ford and General Motors were doing prior to Tesla really being launched, right? And most people still can't fathom how Tesla is now looking at EV stations, etc. It makes sense to Elon Musk, but that's not part of the way that they were thinking about it. So understanding your job can help you really understand competition as well as your strategic capabilities that you build, right? And so your example of your mother is spot on.
Isn't it? I know. So there's another one that I'm actually talking about in this week's Thought Sparks, which is in the United States for young people. Text messaging, of course, is the lifeblood upon which they learn. And it turns out there's this fascinating competition between the Android ecosystem and the iPhone ecosystem, where if you're on iPhones, your text message bubbles are blue. Mm-hmm. And you have things like you can see if another person's typing, and you can, transmit transmit images and stuff. Well, if you insert an Android phone into that, all of a sudden the bubbles turn green. And apparently among a certain group of young people, this is horrible. It's like if an Android person joins your group chat, it turns your whole chat green, and people have been ostracized. People won't date people with green bubbles. And I'm thinking to myself, like, from a rational engineering point of view, like, that should make no difference. They're just text messages after all. But from a human point of view, what tribe do I belong to? Oh, it's huge.
Yeah. And I see this because I'm based in Canada. Like, you're familiar with Tim Hortons, which is equivalent to Dunkin' Donuts in the US. But there are kids that I know who are 19 years of age. So they're on pocket money. They will save money just to go to Starbucks and pick up their one Starbucks because that's a badge for them versus going to a Tim Hortons. So just interesting. I understand that psychology piece.
And I think one of the things that our guides do, so each guide kind of goes into 6 lessons that are short, that give an example. And each lesson is supposed to help you really see what the framework is, then what the example is, then how it was actually used in real life with real examples. And we put backlinks in them. So if you want to go back to the original sources, you can link out from our guides and go see them. Because our goal is to really kind of give you as much of a resource as is possible. So you can almost think of it like a somewhat living version of the Harvard Business Review. And so just in the first guide, what we're looking at is this notion of going from demographic, segmentation, where you're looking at, zip codes and how much technology do people have and how old are they, right? And recognize that actually those things don't really correlate very well with behavior. To get to behavior, you really need to understand the jobs to be done. Like, what are people trying to do to accomplish some things in their own lives? So Flaminia is just showing us some of what the guides look like, and you can see they're very visual, they're very practical, pretty easy to work your way through. So what are some of the other aspects of these? We've talked about them being quick. We talked about them being easy. I would also say one of the other things that are important about the guides is they really are based on deep experience and research. Some of it, very academic research, a lot of it work with dozens, hundreds of companies over many, many years by all of us at Valize.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about this because I'm a practitioner of all this. I've done probably over 100 jobs to be done, interviews and so on. So this works. And I think the advantage, what you've done actually, I would appreciate just for the audience over here, is because it is more cutting edge, but it's been put together in a way that is somebody can take that and give them an advantage. So it's really up to them to go pick it up and then start activating on it, because it doesn't take long. Like, anybody can read it and then actually work through it, because there's usually a delta or a gap between, if you have a theoretical work paper, and then how do you translate that into a practitioner level, area of usage. But this is already used, for practitioner level stuff. So you can give it to an R&D manager or an R&D assistant manager or somebody in product marketing at a junior level or even mid or even senior. And they can understand and say, okay, let's get a move on so we can actually start activating in the marketplace. I think that's the biggest point for me. You're taking cutting edge stuff that actually works, and then you're enabling teams. So really, at the end of the day, they just need to go out and purchase and activate on it.
One of the original visions behind this was that you would use these guides in connection with things like our Spark Hub software, which is software that really embeds the principles of discovery-driven planning, the whole notion of how do you plan under uncertainty. And the idea would be that they could work together, right? So that as your team is going through its checkpoints as you're learning, as you're beginning to sort of reduce the amount of assumptions you're making relative to knowledge that you have, that when you hit a point where, oh, gee, I have to do some customer interviews. I have no idea how to do customer interviews. So maybe you get your team to do the learning guide on customer interviews. It has downloadable templates. It has pre-worked guides. It takes you out to online resources. It can help you do that.
I want to add an important aspect as well. So I know you've launched the customer insights piece, right? How do you get the right customer insights? Because that will help you, get the right direction for your product building, if you will, or your business building, and as well as the capabilities aspect, right? But I think the other piece, and I'm looking down at my notes over here, is you've covered your catalog of items that you're covering is pretty robust, right? So you got discovery-driven planning, discovery-driven growth, how to do customer interviews, how to do prototypes and MVPs. What happens if you hit a roadblock, right? And how do you pivot, right? These are things that startups struggle with. Absolutely large companies struggle with, because I've seen, they hit a wall after a point of time. And then once leadership tries to get into the nuts and bolts and can't figure out the solution, it is just junked away. At an insight stage, you might actually be able to tease out where where to unlock that particular opportunity, right? And so you've got a very impressive set of catalogs that have an end-to-end of the processes and tools that are required to build innovation. And I think that's the piece I think that the broader group needs to understand, that things are coming. So hang on.
Yeah, there'll be a lot there. And I think this really goes together with an organizational shift that you and I and many of our colleagues are talking about, which is this idea of a permissionless organization. So, and you can't do a permissionless organization if people at the operating level, if people right at the edges, if they don't have the skills, right? If they don't have the knowledge to be able to take independent action and go do things, then you really can't devolve that, and you're going to be slower. If you're still operating in a hierarchy where people are waiting around to be told what to do, you're never going to have that going. So we have opportunities for some comments from the audience, and then I'd like to introduce you to our customer success lead to share with you some of the common questions. Can you discuss further the impact community you might form? I don't know, Sid, would you like to take that one?
Sure. I'd say it's early days, but where Rita and Ron are kind of looking at is getting a set of senior executives from mid to large organizations, and trying to see where you can get communities of the impact community, sort of like build small groups together, so you can enable them to not only build but just face uncertainty. I think the problem really is about uncertainty, because the shelf life of so many organizations, and I don't even need to bring that up, is only so much and no more, right? And so how do these senior executives navigate through politics, incentive systems, bureaucracy, change management, even if you have the willingness and the ideas on how to do this? And how can you help one another, as well as learn from one another, as well as also help like you have senior executives that Rita can bring in, or like the Valize network, which is a very sizable network of experts, come in and kind of have a talk to them to say, this is how you might do transformation, or this is how you can do baby steps to do this. Because I know, Rita, you've been able to enable transformation in your consulting practice, and so that's the principle behind facing uncertainty that the impact network is positioned to do.
Yeah, and the idea is really peer-to-peer learning. And what we find is when you get to a certain level of seniority and you have responsibility for growth, so you're not the on the ground entrepreneur, right? You're the one creating the infrastructure, if you will, for those things to happen. It's a very lonely role, because in many cases you're sort of the interface between the mothership and what the ventures need to do. And I find a lot of people would just love to have someone without a political angle to be able to just have frank conversations with. And we have some of our colleagues in our network that do that. And it's advisory, right? It's not really coaching like an executive coach, but it's coaching in the sense of, hey, here's some things to watch out for. Here's some things to think about. So now let me introduce to you Jacora Kaiser, who's our customer success lead here at Valize. And she's been working directly with a lot of our participants. And I thought it might be interesting to have her describe some of the common questions that we get.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacora. I'm the customer success lead here at Valize. And typically we get a couple of questions just around what the courses or guides consist of. Our first question would typically be when can you get the whole collection? So weekly we'll be introducing the guides individually, which is at $99.95 pricing every week, and the collection as a whole is $475. But if you buy the first 5 as they come out, you'll automatically get the six guide for free, and that will be, you'll be able to get the guide or the whole collection before the actual collection drops, which is October 24th. So if you buy them individually weekly, then you'll have access to the whole collection 2 weeks before October 24th. Another question we get is, do you offer enterprise pricing? We do offer enterprise pricing. It will be at $475 each for your team. You can email me at Jacora, Jacora @Valize.com, and we can get you an invoice and get your whole team access. It's a simple process of just letting you know how many people is on the team, and we can just get them access right away.
That's great. Thank you, Jacora. And Jacora can be your main point person if you have other questions that you'd like to have us address. I mean, other things that we're building around the guides is this impact network, which Sid and I were just talking about. We also will have live sessions. We haven't quite figured out what those look like, but there'll be a community for asking questions. There'll be live sessions with myself and my partner, Ron Boer, and possibly other experts that we might bring in if there's a particular demand for some kind of topic that maybe we didn't think of. So we're nearly at our time, and let's bring Sid back up. And I'd love to sort of get your sense of, if I'm a startup person or if I'm a corporate innovator, what are some words of encouragement you might offer them as we close out this session?
So I'd say get out and purchase the guides. I think that let's just start with number one over there. But honestly, this is, you've got cutting edge material that has been simplified to practitioner level. And I'm a practitioner. So a lot of startups as well as corporate people, as Clayton Christian keeps saying, theory has a bum rap. That's exactly how he says it. So this is not, it is a very practitioner level approach to building products. And I would suggest that just take a look at it, sample it, give Rita feedback if you have feedback, because she's always open to feedback. But this is great stuff to just start off with. So,
thank you, Sid. And thank all of you for visiting with us. Please do pass on the replay to colleagues and friends back at home. And I'll look forward to seeing you in our Learning Hub. Thanks, everyone. Hi, I'm Rita McGrath, and welcome to our Learning Guides series. Learning Guides were born out of a frustration that many of our clients at Valize expressed, which is, it's great that you guys come and you teach us and you 30 people in a classroom, it's awesome, but I need 3,000, 5,000, 6,000 people to understand the basic concepts of how you can learn and plan under high uncertainty situations. Each guide consists of a series of 6 lessons, and the guides themselves are grouped into collections. And you can take them individually, you can take them as a group, you can take them as a team. It's very, very flexible. It's real-time, on-demand learning as you need it.